We might be too young to have a spotted cow, but we are both diehard Packers fans.
I could talk about this for hours.
He was my legend. He was my quarterback one. Taysom Hill, forever in my heart.
We have a kind of a reputation of being the young and diehard fans. How is that, Dr. Pepper Taysom?
Amazing.
Okay, good. Let's keep it under 25 minutes, all right?
You know what my biggest regret of our podcasting career is, Big B?
Oh boy, what?
You know, it's not all the dumb questions I've asked before or any of the mistakes, any of the bad episodes. And, you know, it's not Aaron Jones falling short on his promise to come on the show. But my biggest regret is the fact that the two of us will never get to watch Underage Packers episode live. I mean, sure, we can watch it afterwards, you know, but like we will never fully get to take it in of the experience of watching our episode for the first time. I mean, that just has to be so exhilarating. Like seeing Andy Herman perform at like the Forum or, you know, Rob Demoski at Red Rocks. Like we never get to experience that. So that's disappointing.
Yeah.
But we're going to go with it. All right. Here we are today. We get to experience what it's like as this thing is constantly, you know, we're just winging it constantly. So should be a fun time. I got a Dr. Pepper. I'm Joey. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time watching, that was probably not a good introduction, not a good first impression for you. But hey, I promise you I'm not quoting Antonio Brown all the time. Today at the Underage Packers podcast, we're going to pretty much be wrapping it up for the preseason as the Packers will be playing in their final preseason game of 2022 in Kansas City this upcoming Thursday. Should be a good time. So we'll be talking about all of the action that has went down this preseason, looking at the Packers and how they try to kind of cut their roster down to 53 that they have to have after this final preseason game here. So let's head right into it. Before we get to the preseason talk, though, so I guess let's not head right into it. I did want to make a special announcement here that these two fellows on your screen, the two fellows in your earpods, will be making it to town for the Packers versus Rams Monday night game in Green Bay in December 19th, and I simply cannot wait. We got our Packers versus Bears game in last year. Was that the first Packers Bears game you've been to, Big B?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I remember you saying that last year. I was like, wow, for all the games you go to, never been to one. So got it. That was great to get that great rivalry experience in. And then I'm super excited for this one just because the stakes should be super high, right? The Packers and the Rams probably going to be two of the top few teams in the NFC. This game is going to have a lot of impact on playoff seeding. It's Monday night. It's primetime football in December Lambeau. Man, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Mainly getting chills thinking about how cold it's going to be. But we're going to be there. It's going to be a great time. Now, with that special announcement out of the way, let's get into some preseason talk. Starting off with this last game against the Saints, Packers' only home preseason game. I thought my main takeaway from this, the guy that we were all watching, Jordan Love, my main takeaway from his performance is that he looked good. And I was gone away for the first half of the game, so I watched the second half first. And after the second half, you know, he played the whole third quarter and then a few drives in the fourth. And I thought, you know, he looked decent, looked solid, had a few good throws. He had the one to Amari Rodgers over the middles that he zipped in there and avoided a hospital ball by throwing it to the outside instead of having Amari keep on breaking in, and he would have been right into the defender as he caught it. Then he had a great one down the sideline to Samori Toure, which Samari couldn't bring in. But yesterday, when I look back and watch the first half of the game, man, what a performance from Jordan Love. And I'm not saying it was Aaron Rodgers MVP type performance, and obviously we weren't expecting that, but that man looked good out there. Big B, what are your thoughts on Jordan's second performance of the season?
Oh man. yeah, he looked like a completely different player from last offseason. And hell, even last week, he looked completely different, a lot more comfortable in the pocket, didn't get flushed easy, made the correct reads,
Hmm.
fit them balls in there. The receivers dropped them, of course, but man, he just looks so much better, and you love to see him develop.
Yeah, it's to the point last week where I was like, I really want to see how he would do with, the offensive line is mostly the same, but I would really love to see how he would do with the first team offense.
Mhm.
And I'm not hoping that Aaron Rodgers goes down at all this season, but man, I just love to see Jordan out there with the full potential on this offense. Like you said, was not flustered by the pressure. I thought he had a lot of confidence. He was not hesitating to throw the balls, which, you see that a lot with young quarterbacks, I think, where they just don't have confidence. So they hesitate a little bit. At least I do this in Madden as well. They hesitate a little bit. They can't trust what they're seeing, so they don't throw it right away. And by the second after that happens, when they're waiting for it to develop a little bit more, by that time, that opportunity is gone and they're down on the ground. So glad to see that Jordan is getting a lot more confidence in his game. Let's see here. What we got next. Some other guys who I thought performed really well were the menace at offensive tackle and Caleb Jones. Man, he just obviously he pops off the screen just for his size, but he had some plays in there too that were really impressive as offensive tackle. And then also the third string running back Tyler Goodson, I thought looked really good once again, just really shifty. I think the Aaron Jones comparison, not that it's a common one, but I think they're comparable in some ways, just in the fact of their shiftiness, their quick cuts, and I think Goodson has really good vision as well. So was really happy to see Goodson perform well. JJ and Nagbar, man, that one sack, that was one of the plays. JJ's, or it wasn't a sack, but JJ's pressure where he pretty much instantly, pretty much ducks under the offensive tackle and then just does a little slide to the quarterback, gets right in his face. And Ian Book does a good job avoiding it. And Kingsley gets a little too excited that he's back there. So hopefully that's not a constant problem where he just gets so excited that he made it to the backfield and then can't focus on actually tackling the quarterback.
I mean, I would be excited too if I pulled off that move. That was pretty impressive. He did like a whole baseball move there.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. He was probably thinking after he made that, oh man, I'm gonna go viral on Twitter, aren't I? Yeah, so JJ did great. And then also Micah Abernathy. Obviously don't think he's gonna make the roster just because there's a lot of cornerbacks on this depth chart that played really well in the preseason game. But his interception, man, that was a great play from the former USFL player. So love to see that. Those are my key performance. Big B, do you have anybody else you want to bring up?
Well, I see that we're probably gonna mention him in the next talking point, but Keandre Thomas, I mentioned him in our pregame little chat there that we did as a player to watch for this game, and he came out and he made me look good. So hey, shout out to Keandre, making me look good. Played a very good game. I think allowed one catch or something like that. So yeah, thanks Keandre for making me look good and actually making me look like I know things. So
Yes. I thought Thomas had a nice game in the first one, again in the second week as well. Same with Kavion Intel and Rico Gafford, I thought looked really well. So, these cornerbacks, I have some worries about everybody behind Rasul Douglas. That's a lot of positions, I feel like. They're top heavy, got a lot of good players on top, don't have a lot of depth. But they might not have, I'm trying to think of the right way to put this. So for corners, they might not have a strong number 4, but they have a lot of really good number 5s, number 6s, and number 7s, I feel. Yes. So, and I think that's the same thing with outside linebacker. Is Ladarius Hamilton and Kobe Jones a solid outside linebacker 3 as a rotational piece? I don't know about that, but they're really solid depth pieces, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, the players who are going to be hard to cut. So just bottom of the depth chart guys that most likely aren't going to make the 53-man roster, but the Packers are going to have to try to sneak on to the practice squad. One of those guys I just mentioned, Ladarius Hamilton. Really interested to see who the Packers keep at outside linebacker, because I'd be shocked if they kept only 3. That'd be quite a risky move, but who knows? Maybe they like the potential Quay Walker has there, and possibly Isaiah McDuffie. Who knows, man? Like, just as a versatile piece to put on the edge as well. I don't know. But like I said, I'll be shocked if they keep only 3. So they'll have to choose between. I think they like Jonathan Garvin. I do too. And I think they like Tippa. Tippa and Jonathan have tape from last year, so that's a great advantage for them. But also some of the players I just mentioned, Ladarius and Kobe. JJ probably will make that roster. So Tippa probably gets back down to the practice squad once again, but he will definitely have his name on the Packers list to call up at some point during the season, I'm sure. So it's outside linebacker Ladarius. It's just too crowded of a depth room at this point. And then also Caleb Jones, once again, I think they want to develop him a little bit more before they throw him on the 53-man roster. But who knows how they feel about the rest of the offensive line depth pieces. I mean, you're looking at the locks to make this offensive line roster. And obviously, you have Bakhtiari, Jenkins. It looks with their injury progress, they're going to be able to be on that 53-man week 1. And then you have the other 3 starters in Runyon, Myers, Newman. Even if he's not a starter, he's a factor on that list. Zach Tom, maybe Jake Hansen, who was on the roster all of last year for some reason. And then I'm blanking here.
Sean Ryan, did you mention
Sean
him?
Ryan, yeah, he'll probably make the roster just because he's a 3rd-round pick, even if he's not going to do much in his rookie season. I mean, that's 8 guys right there in locks to make the roster. So that's a pretty crowded room for Caleb Jones to sneak into. I completely forgot about Yash Nyman, so there's 9. Like, it's going to be a difficult task for Jones. I don't know if he'll make the roster, but he'd be a great practice squad piece, and I'm excited to see if the Packers do hang on to him as a project and where he goes if they do. Big B, do you have anybody you want to bring up as guys who are going to be difficult decisions for the Packers to make?
I mean, that defensive line room is pretty crowded. I mean, you got Chris Slayton and Jack Heflin both on the edge of being cut and making the roster. I think there's just too many people in the D line room for both of them to make the roster, or I don't even think both of them even make the roster to begin with.
Yeah.
So they're gonna need a strong week 3, and hopefully we get them back on the practice squad. I know Chris Slayton, he has been playing really well this preseason. I've been really impressed with him, and he's kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, Slayton, it's not like he was an undrafted free agent rookie who was never anywhere. He's played with the Niners and the Giants last year, I'm pretty sure. So he's been around, and he's just been playing really well. Heflin, I don't remember him doing too much against the Saints, but I know he did a lot in that second half against the Niners. And he was on the practice squad all of last year and got called up for a few games. I can't remember if he ever played in any games, but I know he got called up to the roster for at least one.
Yeah.
So we'll be really interested to see what happens on that D-line group. And like we mentioned with the corners, I have Keandre Thomas written down here, but I don't think we need to go any further on those. Some great news for the team now. Let's talk about some injury progress. It's looking like this team is going to be healthier than we thought by week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. You have Elton Jenkins, Tunyon, and Watson, like we talked about in our live before the Saints game. They're back from the PUP list. And then also, I was just waking up on this Sunday morning this past weekend, and I see the news that David Bakhtiari is off the PUP, the All-Pro left tackle. And what's funny is I was like listening to Matt's press conference in the background as he announced this, but I guess my brain just wasn't like turned on. So like I was listening and I was like, I didn't take anything away from it. And then I see like a minute later, Schefter tweeting out, Matt LaFleur announces that David Bakhtiari is coming off the PUP. And I'm like, oh my God, he did? And I'm like, wait, like Schefter isn't like fast forwarding time. So like I was like, oh, I guess I just missed that. But anyways, it's great news. No matter how you found out, if it's from the Adam Schefter tweet or if you were actually paying attention to the live stream, Bakhtiari being back. I mean, I'm not going to get too excited until I see him out there playing a full game for 2 weeks in a row. Not going to get too excited until then because this is like our fourth go around of David Bakhtiari is back.
Yeah.
So even with this, I'm going to hold off my expectations a little bit.
I mean, fifth time's a charm, right? I mean,
hey, can only hope.
Yeah, gonna have to at this.
Yeah, and I have been holding myself back just because I've never had the energy for it, and I don't think I do today. But this whole the rap that David Bakhtiari has gotten from a select few group of haters, a small group of haters, a small group of uneducated idiots during this time, during his recovery, is so unbelievably frustrating and annoying, knowing how much David has wanted to get back on the field. All right, now I don't have a massive glare on my face, but I cannot believe for these past 2 years that there are people that believe that David Bakhtiari hasn't been putting in enough effort. You don't need me to tell you how stupid that idea is, and I'm sure you guys have seen plenty of it as well. But man, it is so mind-numbingly frustrating.
Yeah, and I've really noticed, especially like the past week, that all the people who are saying that stuff, they don't know like even what happened like at all.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling them this stuff, and it's like the first time that they heard that Bakhtiari has had like multiple surgeries after the fact, and that his knee was perfectly fine for like months now, but now it's just the fluid and such.
Right.
They just don't know, and it's really annoying, and they should know. But I guess that's the diehard in me thinking that everybody needs to know every little single detail about everything.
Yeah, well, that's a good point too. But yeah, I mean, the thing that irks me too is people are like, if Elton Jenkins coming back at this point and other players across the league that are recovering from ACLs, and they have like a normal recovery time of like 10 months, which is still, insane, a long time to miss. But and they're like, well, David took 2 years. Yeah, because this wasn't a typical ACL. And also, it's much worse for offensive linemen all the time because they're 300 pounds behemoths.
Yes.
That's much more weight to put on a simple bone. So, hey, let's chill down with David Bakhtiari. Let's also chill down with our talk about Amari Rodgers.
Oh, thank God.
There are so many people that I think have this image still of what Amari was in 2021. Like, I see some of these tweets, I see some of these comments, and I'm like, are you guys not watching the preseason games where he looks like a totally different player? And it's not just the production from him. It's not just his punt returns being solid. It's the fact that his movement is completely different because production in the preseason, that's whatever. But the fact that what really gets me excited for his potential in the offense this year is just he is moving so much faster. He is so much more elusive. With that 18 pounds he dropped this offseason, I think he's going to have so much more ability to be that slot guy that we drafted him for. And I am, for one, very excited for that.
I know. It's so okay. Now you're getting me going here. It is so asinine that people think he's not even making the roster this year. It just absolutely blows my mind that people are dumb enough to think that. Like he's going to be so much more. Like I get the wide receiver room is so crowded, but he's our punt and kick returner. He's going to be used in jet sweeps and motions. He's probably going to be used in the backfield because of how crowded that wide receiver room is. that Matt is going to have to get creative and use him somehow. So might as well stick him in the backfield, kind of like Randall Cobb does. Hey, guess what? Randall Cobb is pretty much Amari Rodgers, but whatever. I'm done.
Yeah. Let's just talk about all the stupid things that Packers fans have been talking about for the last 5 months of this offseason. Let's just go on rants about all that.
Yes, it's starting to boil over. I can feel it's just all starting to ooze out of me. I gotta.
Yeah, it's starting to bleed out. We're almost to the season, man. We're almost there. So yeah, that's that. Amari Rodgers is going to be great this year. Cannot wait. What has been great in training camp though has been this stifling defense. As you know, Rasul Douglas had a quote today that saying that the offense is just, it's no match against the Packers defense. And I love that cockiness from Rasul. We talked about it, and I think we talked about it. This is either a personal conversation of ours or in a live stream. They kind of went together of a great overconfidence, a good overconfidence that even though I just used the word cockiness, it's not cockiness. It's a great overconfidence that you have to have as a player in this league. And Rasul Douglas and Jair Alexander have just brought that mindset to the defense. I love it, and I hope it doesn't end up biting them. So
Yeah,
there's that. Rasul.
I feel like our defense can be so cocky, kind of like the Legion of Boom was. Like they're gonna be so cocky that fans are gonna hate them. But for us, it's gonna be so amazing because we love that cockiness as a fan. And Jair's got that, and I feel like all of his energy gonna trickle down to everyone else. Rasul's got that in him. It's gonna be fun year.
I hope the energy they have this year is similar to that of the 2019 Packers with Za'Darius and Preston, and the way that it was just a complete resurgence of the defense. And in 2019 it was a little bit different because we were coming off of 2019 where our defense had allowed Raheem Mostert, a 80th string running back, to run for 200 yards in the biggest game of the season. And in 2018 I'm talking about the 2019 season. So
yeah, you're kind of all over the place.
Well, they were coming off that 2018 season where obviously Za'Darius and Preston weren't there for that. They were coming off that season where they were running with a run-down Clay Matthews and a point of often injured and a already proven to be a bust Nick Perry outside linebacker. They were running with Tramon Williams at safety. And was that the year they brought Devon House back? 2018?
That was 17, I think. Okay. He played in that game, in the Saints game that we went to.
Oh, okay. Anyways, 2018 was just so miserable on defense, and the years before that too. So in 2019, complete resurgence of the defense. So that was different from what it is now because the defense has played pretty well in 2021 and in 2020. But I think this year, once again, we could see just a total energy shift from this defense, especially because of what's happened on offense now with the loss of Devontae Adams. I think the defense has this mindset of we are going to lead the team to a Super Bowl. Obviously, the offense is going to help us out. We have the MVP at quarterback. But when people talk about how the Packers won the Super Bowl, the first thing they're going to mention is us, the defense. And I love that attitude. Can't wait. Cannot wait for this season. One last thing here, and then we'll end it off. Big B, this preseason game against Kansas City. Who is one player that you think has to ball out to make the roster or even the practice squad?
Ooh, wow.
There's a good choice here. I don't want to steal it from you. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it, or else I'm going to steal this great answer from you.
You're probably gonna have to, because I'm looking at the roster right now and I have no idea.
You look down to number 84. Tyler Davis, I
Mm,
think, has to have a pretty good game.
I see. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it in our live stream before the Saints game, and everybody else has been talking about it, but Tyler Davis has not looked well. The team cut Dominic Daphne, and today they reached on an injury settlement with him. So, Tyler, especially with Robert Tonyan coming back, he has to have a pretty good game. I still think that LaFleur and Gutekunst like what they see in him, but if he has another performance like he did in San Francisco or at Green Bay against New Orleans, his career isn't looking too well. Big B, do you have another answer?
Yes, I'm gonna go with my boy Ray Wilborn. The man balled out versus the Saints. Our inside linebacker core is actually 4 deep. I mean, Isaiah McDuffie also balled out. Ray Wilborn's gonna have a big week if he wants to stay on the active roster. And I don't know if they're gonna keep 5 inside linebackers, but I would assume Ray Wilborn is that guy.
Yeah, I think when we see the 53-man roster, it will tell us about the guys who are going to play on special teams, because that's going to be Wilborn's path onto the roster. Because like you mentioned, Isaiah McDuffie, I think he pretty much took the inside linebacker 4 job. His viral tackle was enough. Just pushing one using the Saints offensive tackle pretty much as a pinball. So yeah, special teams is the greatest path for Ray Wilborn to make this roster. I don't think Ty Summers is going to make the team, just because, I think they're looking to clean house on special teams. They've already brought in enough Rich Bisaccia disciples onto this team and I think they just don't want any stains of the Maurice Drayden and Sean Meninga days.
Yeah, and plus Ty Summers really hasn't developed much. I mean, he's pretty much been the same player ever since he's gotten to Green Bay, so I just don't see a point in keeping him around anymore.
Yeah, I just feel like you can find a special team specific inside linebacker on the street anytime you want. With that, we will end episode 108 of the Underage Packers off here. Next week, we'll be back to discuss 53-man roster cutdowns and heading in to week 1 of the season. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you follow us on all the social medias, and we'll talk to you later. As always, go Pack Go.